Hello everybody, I'm a practicing therapist and I work with a lot of individuals with attachment wounds. I work with a lot of avoidance, and I notice a pattern with a lot of my patients or anybody who's an avoidant individual, but specifically from a therapeutic standpoint, I notice, like with couples or even individual sessions, matching energy, like the concept that I'm going to talk about, because I'll define it in this video because I think a lot of people have a different perspective of it, but I notice that matching energy does not work for avoidance in the long run. And I could be wrong about this, but this is my perspective, and I do feel pretty strongly about this, but I could be wrong. So please take everything I say with a grain of salt. I'm never telling anybody what to do. I'm never telling you guys what to do. You guys, I'm just sharing information. You guys have your own experiences. Maybe you guys can talk to another person if you want, like whoever helps you out. This is just what I'm sharing because I think a lot of individuals still want to know my experience or my perspective and how I practice. So this is why I'm making this video. This question was asked a couple times, and so that's why I wanted to bring it up. I bring it up in my videos like throughout, but I never made a video specifically on it. So I feel like you guys deserve that, because sometimes when I'm answering your comments, first of all, I know I don't always get to all your comments. I try. If I miss a comment, you can just send another one in the more newer videos. If it's really important, I'll probably see it. If I don't answer your message, comment, it's probably because I missed it. I'm a busy person, but this one comes up a lot. So matching energy. So matching energy, for the sake of this video, is described by a person mimicking a person's communication style, effort, and passion towards you in hopes to gain control of the situation by somehow expecting or hoping the other person realizes your worth as the person who's matching the energy in the midst of all this, right? Becoming more attracted and attached to you and realizing how much it hurts, when you stop giving energy. That's what I think matching energy means to some extent. And I don't think that's very healthy, because it's actually a form of indirect communication. It can come across pretty manipulative sometimes, because what's actually happening is you're not getting a need met, which I understand that avoidants struggle with meeting other people's needs. They struggle with meeting their own needs too, but that's probably another video. But what ends up happening is, because an individual does not feel like their needs are being met, and they feel like their communication is not going through, instead of adjusting their needs, which I talk about, adjusting your needs at some point in a relationship, people have to do that sometimes. Not have to, but it can be helpful. But it doesn't mean you have to adjust it fully, or you may only have to adjust it like very temporarily. I see couples have to do this sometimes, and then they just readjust it to another time in their life. Because if you want a relationship for a very long time, sometimes you won't get certain needs met, and then it may come back later. A lot of couples, they have years where things are not doing that well, and both of them are probably not getting needs met, right? But a relationship is not just made to get your needs met. That's not what it's for, at least not only. Sometimes people can't meet your needs all the time. And so what this matching energy is trying to get your need met without having some form of you trying to adjust. At least maybe you don't want to adjust. So you want this need met. You're mad at somebody's not communicating, and maybe instead of talking directly about it because you feel like they won't listen, or you've tried and it's not working, you try this technique, right? Now, matching energy is not, at least not for this video. I don't think matching energy is when you're trying to give somebody space, or texting them less, or not expressing as much emotion temporarily because you're trying to respect somebody, right? So some patients or individuals who are with an avoidant individual, they recognize sometimes I have to give my partner space, or I can't text them a lot after work because they had a hard day. And they're doing that out of respect for their partner. They're not doing it because they want to get some sort of response out of their partner. They're doing it because they respect their partner and they want to show them I care, right? They're not expecting to gain anything, right? And I'm not saying that individuals who do this, who are trying to give their partner space, that you should stop doing that. I think that's healthy. If you're doing that and it works for you, that's wonderful. You're trying to show them that you love them by respecting who they are. And usually it's temporary through moods, right? In conjunction, you have moments where you want more text, want more connection, you want more expression. And now this is the avoidance turn to respect your desire, and they lean in. It's the balance. So some days you're going to respect what they need. Some days they're going to respect what you need. And most days, you guys are going to find some balance in the middle to get most of your needs met, right? Some things are on the back burner and they will be met later. Some things are now. Some things change as the relationship changes. And that's just the way a lot of relationships are, typically healthy ones. But it is not, I want this need met right now, and I deserve this need met, and I'm going to try and get it by matching their energy because I'm hoping that this will teach them a lesson or show them that how it feels, right? Or test them in some way, see if they'll actually show up. And some people do. And the tricky part is some avoidance, it can work, but it's temporary. And the reason why I say that is because avoidant individuals, they are not mentally healthy individuals when it comes to relationships. And usually their partner is not either. But what it means is if you're matching their energy and you're playing these sort of games, you're not confronting the issue. And they're not going to heal, because that's not how avoidance healing takes a long time. Any attachment style takes a long time. It's not going to magically get better because you're matching their energy and suddenly they feel bad, so they're going to get drawn to you. That may happen, but it's going to be temporary. Eventually they're going to pull back again, and the more you play these games, it's going to be some sort of off and on situation, and neither is going to feel stable, and someone's going to feel resentment, and you may break up. So I'm saying this because I want people to have long-term healthy relationships, and I understand that this is upsetting, and I am sorry. I'm not trying to upset anyone. I want to help you guys, but I do understand that this video and some of the videos I make are not for everybody, right? Because these topics and these ways to connect in relationships, a lot of people don't like them because it does take work. Relationships do take work, and a lot of people don't realize that relationships are not a magic wand that is waved and then all your problems go away. No, relationships add problems. They take away some problems, but they add a lot too. There are moments where you're going to have to sit there and think, what is the best option for me and my partner? Maybe I don't need to say this right now. Maybe I don't need to talk about this right now. Maybe my partner's having a bad day and it's not the best time to bring up what happened in our date last week, that I was upset that they were on their phone. Maybe it's not the best. It's important to process all those things instead of act fully on what you feel or what you think you deserve, right? And you guys, I'm not saying you don't deserve it. I'm just telling you, try and consider where things place in the timeline of your relationship, okay? So let's kind of talk about some of the aspects that might play into this, right? Avoidants subconsciously and consciously know their own behavior is not necessarily healthy. And they may wish they could change this, but sometimes they don't know how. This really does mean that they may recognize your mimicking behavior is either insincere, AKA as known as matching your energy, right? They're matching the energy, and they recognize, okay, you're probably mimicking my behavior because my behavior is not normal. And if you're doing that, you're either mimicking it or you're unhealthy as well. So what that ends up doing is you're actually pushing your partner away, right? You're pushing your partner away because they are starting to recognize, am I getting anything out of this? They're going to start thinking that way long term, right? And that ends up, it's not going to work in the long term, right? The next one is you won't gain their attention in the long run because they don't see this as an issue because they operate like this. Some avoidants are like this. They might not even notice it's happening. So what will end up happening is you're going to resent them for not having a response, right? They're not responding. And then what ends up happening is now the relationship just is much more distant because you're not messaging them or as much, or you're not talking to them as much. You're not asking them as much. I hear this a lot where a lot of people want their partner to confirm a date, which is normal, right? Like, are we still on for tomorrow? Especially if your partner has a history of last minute or canceling, which some avoidants do that, and that needs to be changed in order for a relationship to be healthy. So that is something you guys need to work on. If you're an avoidant and you do that, understand that it puts a lot of pressure on your partner and it is unfair. So what can help as an avoidant is if you recognize you do that, first of all, apologize sincerely and try and make an effort to tell your partner in advance, yes, this is a day, schedule it in your perspective, like in your calendar or whatever you have to do. This X amount of time is for me and my partner. That's something that would be very helpful. But a lot of people who are the partner of the avoidant, they want confirmation, which is good. You deserve that. And what they do is instead of actually asking for it, and this is true, this is very common. And a lot of people might say, oh, I don't do that. But when you stop and realize you might do it. Okay. Instead of asking for confirmation, they think to themselves, okay, well, I don't want to be the one to reach out because I'm always the one waiting. If I ask for confirmation, maybe it'll make me look bad. Maybe it'll push them away. Maybe it'll make me look needy. But what actually ends up happening is you're not getting the communication that you might need, and you might not be communicating properly for your partner to know what's going on. And so what may end up happening is they actually might not confirm it, and they may cancel last minute. And you as the partner, what ends up happening is you become very frustrated, but they didn't actually recognize that that was something that's bothering you because you're sitting and waiting most of the time. Now, I don't know if that was necessarily clear, and I'm sorry about that, but all that I'm trying to say is sometimes you need to say things a couple times. I don't mean nagging, but sometimes instead of expecting your partner to read your mind or understand, because for you it might be really easy, but they probably don't necessarily know what's going on. So if you're not asking for it, they might think you just don't mind, right? So if you don't ask the confirmation, they might not recognize that you're waiting around and needing it. They may think it's a very low-key, low-pressure thing, and they're not learning because that's how they operate. But if you tell them this is what I'm expecting, you might not even say this is what I'm expecting. If you just ask, are we still on? They might say, oh, yeah, we are, of course. Like, thank you for reminding me. Or they remember and they can confirm, they can reassure you, yes, we're still on. But they'll start getting more subconsciously in the habit of being more aware of saying these things in advance because you're asking, right? Now, I'm not saying do it frequently or do it a lot, but I'm saying get into the habit of communicating fluidly, right? If you ask your partner, go get milk at the grocery store, right? And you also are like, oh, we ran out of mustard. Oh, my partner should know we ran out of mustard because they opened the fridge this morning to make their breakfast. So I'm not going to tell them. I'm going to see when they go to the grocery store if they remember to pick up the mustard. That doesn't sound very fair because how do you know, like maybe you noticed that there's no mustard in the fridge or maybe they didn't look. Or maybe they glanced over it, or maybe they were just busy. Maybe they don't think about it as much. Maybe they're just not as particular. And so instead of you expecting them to remember also to get mustard, just tell them when they're at the store, oh, by the way, I just remembered, or I realized we also ran out of mustard. Could you also quickly get that? Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Whatever it may be. So communicating and being direct that's why it's important. It doesn't mean nag. It doesn't mean be blunt, but it means kind of expressing your need in whichever way. Sometimes you have to show up in ways that you don't want to. You're waiting on your partner a lot. Sometimes you have to initiate those things. And that's just because avoidance, they are just a little bit more detached, right? That's part of their issue. And you can model that behavior for them, okay? The next one is you're actually not healing your own perception of love and attention, right? By matching their energy, you're subconsciously telling yourself that love only looks a particular way. Now, this one's going to be a little challenging for some of you guys. In your mind, you may feel like, obviously you're upset that they're not reciprocating enough, right? And so because you're upset about that, sometimes you're trying to teach them a lesson, right? That's what I told you about matching energy. I'm not saying you do it because you're trying to, respect them. That's not matching energy, at least not for this video. You're doing it because you're upset about something. And in your mind, you're teaching yourself that there are no excuses for somebody being detached or not loving you. You're teaching yourself that love only looks one way, where they show up and they're always communicating. That is not true. Honestly, if that was the case, things would be a lot easier in this world if love was black and white, but it is not. People can love you or care for you and they just don't know certain things. They don't know. Tell them you want more communication. Ask for more communication. Or maybe just you'll end up having to initiate more. If you don't want to do that, you can walk out. But I'm just telling you how it is. You cannot expect somebody who has an attachment issue to suddenly know how to react act in a relationship. They don't have those skills. That's just the truth. If you're with an avoidant, you know that they do not have those skills. Avoidant individuals have been alone for such a long time. And if you ask them, they can even say, this is why I don't get in relationships, because people don't understand that sometimes I have different needs. And I'm going to need more space. Sometimes I need you to walk me through what's going on because I don't get it, right? It's just the way it is. And so what ends up happening is you're not fostering an environment of change, and you're fostering a very particular perspective of love, because you're expecting love to look a certain way, communicating a certain amount of time. And that's fine, but it's also important to recognize if they're not giving that right away, that doesn't mean they don't love or want to talk to you. They're just a different person. That you can still get that if you ask for it, but them not giving it right away should not necessarily make you feel like, okay, this person doesn't care about me. That's not always what it is. So that's what I mean by, if you match their energy, you're not healing your own perception of love and challenging it. Because what you could do instead is recognize, okay, my partner does care about me, but they're just not much of a talker or a texter. Maybe I could, next time we go on a date, I could mention that I would prefer if we text a little bit more often, or X, Y, and Z, right? You just give them a little bit of what you're asking. And, if you mention it a certain way and you guys have a lot of rapport, it's probably not going to be a big deal, right? But if you never mention these things, they're not healing their own perception and you're not healing yours. You guys are at a standstill, right? And the last one is, by matching energy, you're still focused on your partner's, their lack of connection towards you. You're still focused on your partner. And this creates a sense that the two of you are against each other instead of you two against the issue, right? My way or the highway. So it's almost like you're very focused on how they behave, and they're not as focused about you. And so the relationship automatically is a little bit imbalanced, if that makes sense. And so what I think is very important is that, because when you're matching energy, there's a lot of effort, right? You're trying to text like them. You're trying to talk like how they are, kind of prove a point, right? But that's not natural to you. So you're actually putting extra energy into the relationship, which subconsciously makes you more, expecting of them, because you're already pouring so much. So sometimes what can be helpful is backing up a little bit, being who you really are, and be genuine about that, right? And then you two as a pair can figure out what is the best way to communicate so that both of you guys get some needs met. Right? If you want a lot of attention and they don't want much at all, maybe you guys can have medium amount of attention. And so that neither of you have to play this matching game, matching energy type of game. You guys can both get something out of it. Okay? This video, I just made it kind of quickly and very rough because I'm just trying to respond to some comments. So, a lot of you guys might not even need this one, but those that do, I hope this makes sense. I will see you in the next one.